fellow Earthlings, and welcome to the Great Debate Community Channel. I'm your host, John Petersen, and this is a channel brought to you by Steve McCrae, and I always want to start every broadcast by thanking Steve for allowing me to do this. You might see him pop up in chat there. He usually stops by when I have a stream. Well, it just seems like it was just a couple weeks ago we were here talking about Trump, and he's been keeping the crazy coming ever since then. So I figured it would be worth talking about him again. I'm joined tonight by Sweet Heathen was supposed to be here, and she did try to get here. And if Sweet's listening, I want you to know it's not your fault. It's the StreamYard. If they detect any issues with your bandwidth, then it just drops you because of how much bandwidth it needs. But you've been on before and it worked, so it must just be some slowdown in your internet now. So not to worry. We've sent a link out to Nick Suter, and hopefully he will join us soon as well. I'm joined though tonight, hopefully by Nick here real soon. We've got Heathen, progressive liberal, with us. We have Jim Majors with us tonight, formerly known as the Disciple of Kairos.
Oh, you didn't call me the mustache. Thank you.
Oh, that's right, Jim the Mustache Majors. And well, that's okay. We're also joined by another Batman villain, Ansgar the Top Hat Odison. And just real quick before we start, I do want to point out that tomorrow on my other channel, the Amateur Conversationalist, I'm taking a day off tomorrow. Got some family things to do, so there will be no episode of that. However, if you missed the last episode I did, Nakasuchi just mirrored it today on his channel. And if you'd rather go give Nakasuchi a view, please go over and watch when I interviewed Nakasuchi on the Amateur Conversationalist. And not to be too much of a shill, but I am ding ding ding. I am 11 subs away from hitting 100 on my Amateur Conversationalist channel. So at some point I will link it in the live chat there. And if anybody's out there listening and hasn't subbed yet, I'm not sure what it is, and maybe some of these folks that are here with me know there's certain things that like hitting 100 allows you to do or something on YouTube.
Yeah, you could have a custom URL at that point.
Well, okay. Yeah. So if anybody's out there wants to, help a beggar out. But anyway, and the other thing I want to point out is Nakasuchi just started last Wednesday having me do a once a week broadcast on his channel. And we, it was just a couple days ago, and I can't even remember now. Oh, that's right. We had Dragnot and Max and Aliakai and I forget who else. And we talked about that video where Alex Malpass was talking to Professor Locke about whether God created the universe. This coming Wednesday, it's going to be on Nakasuchi's channel on Wednesday night, 7:00. It's going to be Dr. Misha Griffith, Jerry Griffith, Dr. Josh Bowen, and Megan Lewis. We're going to talk about Norse mythology. And hopefully we will have a special polytheist guest also. Now, to get to the subject at hand.
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, stranger?
Welcome, Nick. $400 shooter.
Yeah. Oh God. Is that ever? I guess that never gets tired for some people. I guess it's easily amused.
No,
Fine.
No. And just so you know, we're going to feel some kind of way about you all night because in your box earlier was Sweet Heathen, and we would all much rather be looking at her.
I think
I'm loving the hair, man. It looks great.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, yeah, but I'm aware that is with the caveat that I'm somewhat of a distant second to Sweet, but that's all right.
Well, I'll tell you what. The first thing we should do. The first thing we should do here to set the mood is, as everybody probably already knows, Trump quoted in I think a 3-post tweet the other day. He quoted Wayne Allen Root, a conspiracy theorist slash. I don't know, slash a whole bunch of other things, but it's always funny to me that Wayne Allen Root, all serial killers have 3 names. I'm just saying. But Trump quoted him in a 3-post tweet, and Jim's got that up on a screen. And just to set the tone and to get started, I'm going to have him read that tweet to us.
Do I have to read it in the Donald Trump accent?
Please do.
Oh, if you have a Donald Trump impersonation, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Here you go. Thank you to Wayne Allen Root for the very nice words. President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world. Not just America. He is the best president for Israel in the history of the world. And the Jewish people in Israel, they love him like he's the king of Israel. They love him like he's the second coming of God. But American Jews don't know him or like him. They don't even know what they're doing or saying anymore. It makes no sense. But that's okay. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he's good for all Jews, blacks, gays, everyone. And importantly, he's good for everyone in America who wants a job. End quote.
Wow. Tremendous.
Wait a minute. So Jews in America don't know him?
Oh my God.
like they've never heard of the president.
But it's just that he's good for everyone, for the Jews, the blacks, and the gays. Like what? Why did he specifically list Jews, blacks, gays?
Because those are the ones that hate him the most.
Right. I mean, probably.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I need to know. Are they saying that they don't
to me.
know him, as in like a biblical, do you know God, or does he mean it? No, like they've never heard of Donald Trump.
They're all walking around thinking Howard the Duck is the president.
Well, hey, here's I never even thought of what Jim brought up though. He says everyone, and then he lists a bunch of other people that would fall under everyone, as if they're not part of everyone. So.
Well, he did specifically caveat everyone who wants a job, so maybe only those people want jobs.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Well, why is it you think that that specifically Trump though is trying to be seen, or somebody wants Trump to be seen as not just the best president for in the world, but the best president for Jews specifically?
Well, Jews typically vote Democratic. Not all the time, but for the majority. So I think it's
80%.
Yeah, I think it's leading up. The election is just over a year away. So it was probably something that they talked about recently. So it was on his mind that it was one of the demographics he needed to reach out to. And this was his attempt at doing so.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's important, to know who you're talking about. You're not talking about somebody who, but you're not talking about somebody who's in Israel, somebody who's from Israel. Like the guy who's saying this shit, and conservative. He's Alex.
Yeah, I think someone else put it on Twitter very eloquently recently that the only person that Trump has ever hired who is competent at their job was Stormy Daniels. And I think Trump has had a lot of issues with finding people who are competent around him. So it doesn't surprise me that he got really bad advice here.
Did you see that Sean Spicer is going to be on Dancing with the Stars?
I did.
Ooh.
And I also said
Sarah B. Huckman as well.
I said I wonder how long it'll take for him to lie about the crowd sizes.
Isn't she going to be on Fox News now? She's a new anchor on Fox News.
Yes.
Maybe
What,
that's
did she resign?
Oh, she resigned a while back.
No, I didn't even know that.
Oh,
That's what's
then
on
maybe.
top.
Well, I heard something else. I thought it was Dancing with the Stars as well.
So now, is Sean Spicer going to be on Dancing with the Stars, or is Melissa McCarthy going to be on Dancing with the Stars doing Sean Spicer?
I mean, I'm fine with either.
Maybe both.
So, one thing I want to point out, and we can move on to other stuff about that tweet is, and we were talking about this before the broadcast, and some of the folks here didn't agree with me. My claim is, because some of Trump's apologists have been saying, well, Trump didn't actually say those things. He was just quoting somebody. But my contention is that if you quote somebody who said some crazy shit about you, and then you don't disabuse people of said crazy shit, you are yourself saying that you agree with all that crazy shit. So I think Trump really does believe he's the second coming of the King of Israel, and everything else that.
Or he wants people to.
Oh
think
yeah. I don't know that he necessarily believes it, but he's okay with other people believing it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a very good point for sure.
And when other people do that, they don't do it as the president of the United States of America. We look to that person in a different way than we look to, Sharon down the street or whoever.
Right. Like if somebody were to tell me like, wow, that is the best mustache ever, and I retweeted it, I might not necessarily think it's the best mustache ever. I do, but I support them saying it.
Well, here's the thing, Jim. What happens if then you find out that they're a neo-Nazi?
Well, they wouldn't be, because they wouldn't be attracted to this kind of mustache.
This is true.
I think I'm gonna say that I think there are a couple of false assumptions in your premises of this argument. I'm gonna go out on a limb and
I'm not seeing any holes in this screen door.
So all you gotta do is you gotta get a picture of Jim Majors and go around to people and say, do you like the stash? And if they do like the stash, not a Nazi, confirmed.
Ooh.
I like that.
Hey, just to clarify from a few moments ago, when Jim was laughing and everybody was bursting out laughing, they weren't laughing at Jim. I think they were laughing at a post that I shared of Sweet Heathens.
Yes.
I didn't see the post. I was laughing at Jim. What was that?
I was laughing at the post.
Oh, okay.
I had to laugh at the post because listen, when you said you'd rather be looking at Sweet Heathen, I said, I understand. I was in the batter's box. You lost someone. I came in. But then you literally put Sweet Heathen's face right on me. I was like, how much
wait
more
a minute.
do you have
That
to just
gives me a great idea. I'm going to start sharing every one of Sweet
Yeah, that's
Heathen's.
called producing the show.
Thanks for giving me that idea, Nick.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Can
nice
you
to feel wanted.
Just a little bit,
You stay out of this, Ansgar. You stay out of this.
And in that position you're in, and Nick, it's perfect. We can only see your forehead. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good too.
I'm trying to. Well, all you need to do is move that image just a little bit more to the. He's going to do it too. This is what he's doing right now. Is he's trying to figure out how to get the image so that it goes
image
right
over, like right on top of your shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, there we go.
Well,
So
at least I'll get more dates that way.
Hey, it just gives me a few ideas how we can update our layout, man.
So Ansgar,
I'm so
what
glad
are your...
I came, John. You're making me feel so welcome. Thank you for the warm invite. My favorite people in the room too. Thanks.
I'm so glad you came. Giggity. Ansgar, so what are your thoughts on that tweet that Jim read?
Here's the thing. That was definitely an endorsement of the tweet. There are instances where you can retweet something somebody said about you and not necessarily be in agreement, but that was absolutely an endorsement of that tweet. I mean, yes, I've like I said, I've had some people retweet, tweet some crazy crap about me, and I've retweeted it without any context just because I know it's so insane that people are just going to laugh about it. But there's no reason to think that was what Trump was doing in this instance. There's no context for this that I can say seems like he was not anything but tacitly endorsing it, Yeah.
So just a few other notes that I wrote down here to maybe get the conversation going. That happened recently. some things that were said and some things that happened. U.S. Steel announced layoffs 2 days after Trump claimed he saved the steel industry with his tariffs. And shortly after that, steel industry layoffs happened. Go ahead,
Maybe
Nick.
he just doesn't know the meaning of the word saved.
These people had to go into work every day, and now they can sit at home all day on their couch. And Jim can do I can't do the voice, but I think that's he saved them from having to actually go into work.
Jim, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh wow!
No, he gets that look every time I talk.
He was sitting so fucking still. I thought he froze up, man.
Oh no, I'm here.
That's funny
I
as
just
hell.
listen intently when he's talking. I've learned to shut up. It's Pavlovian. You know, I just don't want to get hit anymore.
You know, and then Trump doubled down on some things from that tweet. You know, set up. You know, he said, you know, Jews who vote Democrats show a lack of knowledge and show disloyalty. Is that?
What is that?
That's
Is
me.
it time to get up already?
Back it up.
That's me doing my Nakasuchi impersonation with the phones going off during my broadcast. And then no president has ever appealed to a country to not admit members of Congress, which he did like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, telling Israel not to let the congresswomen into Israel.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
And then happening this weekend is the G7 in France. I hear that things are pretty cool between him and President Macron. And the global economy has been going through some changes. Israel just launched another missile attack at Syria. And the Amazon rainforest, which provides 20% of the world's oxygen, is burning more heavily than it has in maybe decades. And on the lighter side, Scaramucci nicknamed Trump Noble because he says Trump is melting down. But
if Trump gets elected, my vote is we speed up the burning of the Amazon rainforest. I totally go with
that. So, if any of that stuff strikes your fancy, comment on it. Ansgar also brought up something before we went live about Trump and what he's been saying about guns that should have a lot of his followers running in the opposite direction.
But somehow doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
He, just a recap. He, some months ago, I think it was February, maybe, he had a meeting with lawmakers and basically said he's for taking the guns early, due process later. And now we're actually seeing that come to fruition in what he's trying to pass, I guess they're calling red flag laws, where basically they can take a gun on a red flag without any sort of due process. And you would think that his voting base would be very worried about something like this. In fact, I've seen more liberal commenters worried about this kind of a breach of the Constitution than I have any of his voters. So this, I don't understand what he has to do to piss people off. I really don't.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because it seems like his base are so willing to set aside their own ideals and their own policies to stay in support of him. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I mean,
well, only to be fair, only the economic ones, political ones, or social ones. Just to be fair,
to give you an idea, like one of the people that I was talking to, who's definitely a Trump voter, he was telling me that, but he'll never get it done, so it doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, what if he does get it done? law. How much more this is being made into law do you need?
Let me ask a question, and it may be completely inappropriate, and if it's off topic, but I got brought in here. Obama was constantly, he's coming for our guns, he's coming for our, and he never did, he never tried, and the fact that he wasn't trying was proof that he had a super secret plan to do it, and steal everybody's guns, and his plan was to do that by not doing anything. This was the argument. I shit you not. Now Trump is doing this stuff, and everybody's like, it's perfectly fine. So now, other than, and it's a question that's baiting a bit. What's the difference?
Hey, real quick, before anybody responds to that, if there was anything really interesting that you said, like the 90 seconds or 2 minutes before that, you might want to repeat it, guys, because we were actually off air for like 90 seconds. Or 2 minutes.
No!
Oh, wow.
Oh, so everyone missed my fawning over Jim. Thank God, that was a little embarrassing. Sitting there in the tank, excuse me. I was just like getting a little worked up.
Well, Nick, I was wondering what was going on with the live, like the format and everything.
Right. So you guys on my screen, you guys all disappeared, and I had spinning wheels and all your boxes. But for you guys, you still saw everything.
No, it happened here too. It happened on my end. I saw it. And then the layout completely changed, and I'm on the other side, which I'm not complaining about.
But anyway, go on.
So I guess I'll start over. So basically, the excuse has been for this so far that I've heard is that Trump is just trying to negotiate high and get the Democrats on board, make them happy, and then he's going to dial it down and be more pro-gun, which is just ridiculous since we're actually seeing these laws. He's attempting to bring them into fruition. This isn't just a negotiating tactic. And I think, Nick, you were talking about, what Obama's presidency was like.
Well, yeah, and I think people caught that, but so Obama never made any move. In fact, the what's that organization that rates? It's not the Brady, but there we go. You see, somehow it's still covering me. Look at that. That was completely deliberate. He's actually up enough that people could still see his eyes, but me,
that's hilarious.
How the hell? Okay. Oh God, here we go again. Okay, John, you've made your opinion clear.
No, I'm legitimately sharing comments. It has nothing to do with hiding you.
Yeah, it just happens to be over your face, Nick. It's a complete coincidence. Okay. So Obama got now I forget what the rating company is. It's not the Brady. It's the American Citizens for. Then they rate every president, and Obama had the lowest rating on gun control of any president in like the last 40 years. Any Democratic president, he got nearly an F across the board. And about all he did, I think, if I recall, was renew the assault weapons ban. Although now there was an issue with that. At any rate, he was. Oh God. And you see, I'm wondering if this Sweet's part of this. She's like, oh, I'm going to keep doing comments. So my question is, the conspiracy theory was, especially why you couldn't reelect Obama, was because his secret plan was to do nothing about guns and not come after anybody's guns the first year to lull everybody into a false sense of security so he could come and take everybody's guns and literally appeal the Second Amendment, just gone. That was the argument. And there was no evidence for it. It was a ludicrous argument, and a lot of people bought it. Now, and it was the Trump supporters, it was the Trump's base that bought it. Now, these same people, Trump is making moves that could do significant damage to them, and it seems like he can do no wrong. My question is, what's the difference?
It's almost the opposite argument. Not just that, it's he's literally making laws where he can grab guns without due process, and they're saying, well, this is evidence that he's not coming for our guns.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, and I think another thing to consider is how people will twist his words, right? Mm-hmm. There's a story in Dead State on the 20th about Mark Taylor. If you know who Mark Taylor is, he's an evangelical Christian conspiracy theorist and everything. He said, this is a quote from Mark Taylor. "What the Lord has shown me is that if they wait too long, it could be another Mogadishu or another Benghazi, where the patriots will rise up and say, enough is enough. And then they will take matters into their own hands, and they will drag their dead bodies through the streets. adding that these patriots, presumably Trump supporters, will literally hunt down Democrats and drag them out of their, quote, houses or offices. The people are not asking for justice, they are demanding it, so the government has to act. So what Taylor is saying is that these things where they're taking guns, they're only going to take them from Democrats. And they have to do that because Trump's about to start mass arresting Democrats and putting them in prison.
Well,
and this is lauded as a good thing.
Right.
Wow. I'm curious. I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but here's the thing. I mean, he has already actually laid the foundation for something very similar to that, where he has said people who vote Democrat are, I don't think he called them enemies of the state. He said that they were a threat to this country.
He said we're dangerous to democracy is what he said.
Yep, there you go. That was it. That was it. And the thing is, that's coming awfully close to trying to invoke the clear and present danger clause and on American citizens for how they're voting. And nobody seems to care. And that's concerning.
Yeah.
Hey, we're joined by Puffalupagus. He was backstage. Now, for anybody who just want to point out, for anybody who's going to use a StreamYard, for some reason on my laptop, it's got 5 of us lined up underneath the broadcast window. And then he is down underneath one of our avatars, and you can just see the top edge of his little box. And I couldn't see him there, and he was waiting backstage. Luckily I was able to click just on the top of it and then put him in the broadcast. But you can't scroll the page down and see those things. It's crazy.
Well, this is still a beta software. It's interesting.
We've got a question from the chat real quick. SoulWatcher72, if Trump did that, start arresting Democrats, what's the procedure to stop him? SoulWatcher, there are 2. It's impeachment or the 25th Amendment. Those are the 2 avenues.
Well, and I did a piece on it was called oh my God, I can't believe, because it's come up like twice now. The end of the American Republic, a plausible path. An American theocracy, the plausible path to the end of the American Republic. And I argued how Trump could, using the means available to him, legitimately possibly end the American Republic as we know it. And it involved essentially undermining the Fifth Estate. It involved especially helping to get Republican governors in place, which is important for redistricting issues and for gerrymandering, which affects also in particular, and he has to also make sure he's getting good conservative judges in place that will allow the gerrymandering. And then at that point, if he attempts to and then finding an emergency of some kind, he has to find an emergency of some kind to expand his abilities to ultimately find a way to stay in office past what would be allowed by constitutional amendments, or try to find a way to create a new amendment that allows him to do that, which, if he's popular enough, I think is doable, especially if he's packed the court, which he's about 40% towards all the checklists that I said this guy would have to do, and that was 3 years ago, and I'm terrified.
Real quick, Nick, I want to make a clarification. There's a question in the chat. What is the Fifth Estate? So there are 5 estates. The first 3 are the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. The 4th estate is the voters. The 5th estate is the media.
Which is the First Amendment for a reason, and his attacks on it, and have been far more effective than people realize, because a lot of the media is feeling sort of kowtowed by what he's been doing, and especially during the election, a lot of people wouldn't call him out on things that were demonstrable lies because they didn't want to be branded as fake news. It was that powerful. He was altering the news media not by sort of picking the stories, but by scaring the living daylights out of them. For they didn't want to be called biased.
Hey, real quick, Puffalupagus, give me a mic check.
I think my wife's working, but I was gonna say, what Nick's talking about right now, to me, Granted, I have this romanticized version of it because it's like my favorite thing. But World War II, this seems to be the same strategy that Mussolini used against the press, which is there's two versions of the truth: my
Sure.
story and what they write, which is my story. So you can write the truth or you can write something else. So it's like he's basically putting out there: if you say what I say, it's the truth, but if you say something else, it's alternate facts, it's lies, you're bringing up misinformations, doctored videos, this, that, and the other, when he's clearly been, tackled of it himself. But it's like, I think that they just, like, they tuck themselves in at night with a tu quoque fallacy, and it's just very warming and comforting to him.
Yeah, I would definitely say that his tactics are more Mussolini-esque than the Third Reich's. The Third Reich's was more manipulation than attack. I mean, there was Lugenpress is what they called it when they attacked the media, but they were more about just manipulating the story. But Mussolini was more about just throwing the press in prison for being contrary to his positions. I agree.
But yeah, and then also scaring them, like not only
Sure.
if I can't get you through the law and actually
Right.
lock you up through my laws, I'm going to use the extra legal means of the civilian pressure to literally scare you out of pursuing the truth.
Well, hell, he called for his followers to shoot Hillary Clinton during the election cycle.
Yeah.
Which to me, that's just like the when the black bloc rose or whatever they called it, Mussolini's group, because basically that's what they did, is they basically killed their political rivals overnight, and then were like, hey, when they were like, hey, you have to answer for this, Mussolini's like, yep, I did it, and he stood up and was like, I did it, and everybody cheered him. And it's like, it was even Italians said at that time it was a shocking turning point for him, because they did not realize how deep in the depths of fascism they already were. And they were like, what do we do now? And then everybody looked around and was like, it's too late to act. We're already in the bear trap. Our leg is caught and we're prey now.
Yeah.
There was a comment that just came up, and I think they said start. I think they meant smart. You need someone smart in the administration. I think, and yeah, that was absolutely an incredible insight on behalf of both Puff and Progressive Liberal. But I think the scary thing is, one of the reasons Hitler was voted into power was because everybody thought he was an idiot. And people thought he was stupid. And we do like voting stupid people into power for one reason, which is we think that they can't pull one over on us. That is an incentive. We like voting in smart people sometimes. It depends on, different people have different preferences in a president. Some people like someone you can have a beer with. But one other thing, a lot of people are comforted by someone who's not the smartest guy in the room being as president, because they say, well, his staff will help him out. And the reality is that he's not going to really be able to pull one over on us. And this was, I think, one of the appeals of Reagan, actually, and who was actually a lot smarter than he got credit for.
Oh, sure.
Was very, very successful. But one of the reasons he was able to be so popular was because he wasn't, he didn't come off as all that bright, but he was charming, and so people liked it. And my concern is that people overestimate how much intelligence you need to do something like this, and underestimate the amount of basically charm that you need with a minority, or not a minority, but with a group that feels disenfranchised in some way or another. And I do think, and Obama had said this right after Trump's election, he had been talking to Hillary, and he said, maybe we moved too fast, and maybe this country really wasn't ready for a black president, because this is the reaction, not necessarily by people who are racist, but by people who didn't think the country was moving so fast and desperately wanted to slow down.
There's a question up on the screen right now for the panel.
So I was gonna say that's the deepfakes thing is not necessary. The deepfakes thing is basically it's not to confuse voters. What it is to water down or to discriminate or discredit any information or whatever you can provide to say this is the truth, because then it provides a plausible deniability, just like the ha 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 I'm joking thing, right? So like what it does, it provides this plausible deniability for his voters, his supporters, whatever, to say, I don't believe that's real. They can just take the flat earth out, even though it's it's clearly would be harder to fake it than not, but they're like, whatever, that's fake. But as far as the majority of voters, they are already so. The panel here, Nick could literally run a fake story on Facebook that would gain traction and have no plausibility in reality, and within 36 hours it would blow up before the 72-hour cycle hit, and then people figured out it was fake. You know what I mean?
Jesus, hold on, that's a really good idea. Hold on a sec. I'm just gonna oh great, sweet. I'm gonna be famous. Thank you.
So what I'm saying is, we could. There's people here that's smart enough to engineer that small of a political trick, right? So just think about it. Like, you got to think about the fact that every country's paying for large amounts of cyber espionage, which starts in the social sphere now. So, I mean, it's just the thing is, deep fakes is not necessary to trick the majority of voters. All you need is what's already in place, reaction politics.
How about this from Misha Griffiths? Hitler promised to fix everything and gave the Germans some group to blame all of their problems on. Sound familiar at all?
Oh, yeah.
I want to answer that, but I think Ansgar was about to say something. I want to hear what you have to say.
I was going to say, touch on kind of this. One of the things is attacking Trump necessarily isn't really all that helpful, because no matter what we say, no matter what lie we point out, it really doesn't affect his followers. It really doesn't affect his voting base. The thing that we have to work on is what in this country is making people vulnerable to his rhetoric. You know what I mean? What is it that is making people susceptible to his rhetoric? And that, I think, is what we have to work on, And
no, I agree. That's one of the reasons I'm in favor of things like universal health care and in favor of restoring voting rights of felons and incarcerated individuals. We fix this by equality. What we have now is a giant wage gap. You've got CEOs at a company making 1,600% more than the median wage at the same company. It's been almost 10 years now since we've raised the federal minimum wage. Raising it to $15 an hour probably isn't even enough money anymore. I've been trying to put together a video for months to figure out if $15 a month is enough anywhere for two adults to raise two children. And my calculations completely...
I can tell you here in California it isn't.
No, absolutely no. I'm talking about...
I don't think anywhere.
Love Canal, I think. I think Love Canal, but that's, yeah.
Right. And it's not. It's not enough money. So, and then, you'll get people like Ben fucking Shapiro who says, well, if if the only job you can get doesn't pay you enough money, just get a different one.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick though. Well, if you're not finished on that line, go ahead. But then let's address.
What I was going to say is it's health inequality, income inequality, and education inequality that are driving all of the issues in this country. And until those three things are addressed, and all of us realize that we're going to have to make sacrifices, we have to pay for those things. They aren't free, but we all have to give into our society to make our society a better thing. We're going to continue to see autocrats like Trump in power.
And just to make sure that Godwin's law plays a part in every broadcast, does anybody have anything to say about what Misha pointed out? Because that sounds awful familiar to me.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was the exact same.
Yeah.
Everything cost. So Germany was suffering after World War I because we sanctioned the fuck out of them for World War I, and we should have. And they were suffering economically. And Hitler said, well, it's the Jews' fault. And if you elect me to power, I'll solve your problems.
That sounds familiar. It's the Jews' fault.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I also think there's a certain amount of people have a certain number of fears. People have a certain number of worries, and they don't feel like these worries and fears are being addressed anywhere else. And he's giving them a nice, comfortable, easy answer where they're not getting a nice, comfortable, easy answer anywhere else. In fact, some places they might not be getting an answer at all. And so the I can fix everything and here's whose fault it is, that plays really well to a population that is vulnerable to that kind of rhetoric.
Yep.
Can I ride into the battle with the unpopular opinion horse?
Yes,
Uh-oh.
please do.
Sure.
Here's my take, and people don't like it when I give it because I think it makes them confront a truth they don't like. I think the push for equality is what is fueling these people to support what Trump's doing, because they are scared. They're scared because they know that the very last thing they have that gives them any sense of power is that they can look at a person of color, right, or a person of a minority and say, yeah, it may be hard for you to get a job, but at least I can still get one. Right. And at the very least, they feel that they're scared that what happens when equality comes and there's nothing standing between me and that other person and destitute poverty.
No,
I
disagree. I think there are some people like that for sure. But
that's what I'm saying, is that the fringe is what's driving that, is that's what's creating that, the place for that fear that somehow they're in danger, when reality is they're not in danger at all from the minority community.
One of the problems with the push for equality is in the messaging. I'll tell you right now, you tell a poor, destitute white person that he has privilege because of the color of his skin, and he is going to reject that message. If, however, you humanize the other and say, look how horrible this person is going through, and look how similar it is to what you're going through, only the only reason they're going through it is because of the color of their skin, that message is going to play well. And so what's happening is you have one side saying that racism is basically a myth, and you've got the other side that is making someone feel as though they're being told that they're this person in a place of privilege when they're looking around at their life and saying, what are you talking about? I've got nothing. You know?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is that but what I'm saying is that they feel like, but I think that they're scared at the same time, because if everybody's equal, right? If everybody's equal and they don't have anything that makes them better than anybody else, and they're already, like you said, they're losing. They're desperate for one thing that makes their life great, right? Like they can just feel like it is. It's totally a placebo effect. It's a pseudo effect, but it's something that they can believe in. And Trump rides in and he goes, yes, simply because of who you are, you're better than these other people.
Let me quickly say two things, because I have to bail, so I'm on my way out. So I just want to say these two things and go. The first is Puff. I understand, and I think that makes sense. I do think Ansgar's point probably is, in my mind, a bigger one, and I'll tell you why. I think they see equality as code for actually elevating everyone above them. So they don't actually. So when you say they're afraid of the equality, no, I think what they're afraid of is that equality to them means something else. They think equality is code for, we're going to give all the best rights and privileges to everyone else because they've been underrepresented, and now it's what's it called, oh my God, the affirmative action. It's affirmative action, but for Mexicans, it's affirmative action for everybody else, and that's what they hear. That's not what I think it is, but I think that's what they hear, and I think that's why they're afraid of it. They don't think it's equality. The second thing I want to quickly...
Thank you. That was the most insane steel man I've ever heard. Thank you. That was way better than I could ever put it.
Thank you. The second thing I want to quickly say is New York Times, Tuesday, November 21st, 1922. And I bring out this piece when people talk about, well, gee, Trump isn't as bad as he sounds and yada, yada, yada. Tuesday, November 21st, 1922. But several reliable, well-informed, New York Times, well-informed sources confirmed the idea that Hitler's anti-Semitism was not so genuine or violent as it sounded, and that he is merely using anti-Semitism propaganda as a bait to catch the messages of followers and keep them aroused, enthusiastic, and in line for the time when his organization is perfected and sufficiently powerful to be employed effectively for the political purposes for which he is attempting to use it. That was the New York Times, and I think that's an interesting piece for anyone who's talking about this. Actually, and there I lied. There's a third thing I want to say. That mustache is awesome. Thank you all very much.
Hey, Nick, you got anything to shill before you head out?
You know what? Give my time to Ansgar. He'll shill for me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good one, guys.
Later, man.
Bye.
Later,
Hey,
Nick.
I just want to throw it out to the chat. I don't see anybody in chat that has said anything along these lines, but if there's anybody that's watching that wants to come in and defend Trump, and one of us knows who you are, you're more than welcome to come in. Just let me know in the chat, and I can shoot you a link. We'll give that a few minutes, and then if nobody takes me up on that, then if Sweet Heathen wants to see if her internet's working better, then she can come back in. I'll give her a heads up when we're ready for that. Go ahead.
Well, I want to expand on what we were just talking about a minute ago.
Sure.
John Steinbeck wrote an article in like 1960. Yeah, it was June 1960, called A Primer on the 30s. And he was writing about why socialism never took hold in America. And he said, I guess the trouble was we didn't have any self-admitted proletarians. Everyone was a temporarily embarrassed capitalist. And what he's saying there is that there's this mindset in America that I'm going to make it. I'm not going to be like the previous generation, you know, my father that worked all his life and never made more than $50,000 in any one year. I'm going to make it big. And so since we all have that mindset, we're unwilling to deal with what's right in front of us, which is the wage gap, which is an education gap, which is a healthcare gap. Because I'm going to make it. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be rich someday. And that mindset, I think, holds us back. And I think Steinbeck was right that since we're all just temporarily embarrassed capitalists, we care, right? I don't have very much money in the stock market right now, but I'm still mad that the stock market lost 623 points on Friday. Even if, you know, personally, it didn't really affect me that much. Other people, you know, lost thousands and thousands of dollars. So we look at the GDP and we look at the Dow and the NASDAQ and what they're doing as a judge of our economy. But somebody who doesn't have more than $500 in assets, it doesn't really affect them, but we behave as though it does. It's just the mindset of Americans, I think.
No,
Well,
I think you're really onto something there.
Go ahead, Ansgar.
Oh, I think you're really onto something there. And it would be different if we had like a serious class mobility in this country. Then we could afford, as a country, just all see ourselves as temporarily embarrassed capitalists. But we don't. We don't have that kind of class mobility. And so it's almost become like the downside of the American dream, you know?
Right.
And I want to touch on something Ethan said, but Jim, you haven't gotten in a while. I hope we're not Bigfooting you here.
Open up what?
No, I said you haven't got in a while. I hope we're not Bigfooting you here.
No, not at all. No, you're good.
Well, you know, you talk about economic issues, and Jesse Dollemore just put out a video the other day where he touched on something that I'm a little upset that more people don't hit this hard and haven't been hitting this hard since Trump took office, and all the credit that Trump takes for the economy, because the economic recovery began in the second year of Obama's presidency. Obama took over a shitty economy from the Bush administration. Unemployment topped out at 10% in October of his first year in office. And then in the spring of 2010, every month thereafter, unemployment shrank. It was 10% in October of 2009. When he left office, it was at 4.7%. When Obama took office, the stock market was at around 8,000, if I'm remembering correctly. When he left office, it was at 17,000. Trump, lauded certain months of GNP. Well, there was many stellar months during Obama's presidency that we had. And the other thing, it's foolhardy to look at month-to-month GNP anyway. But the economy did grow and recover for the last 7 years of Obama's presidency. And the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, it was just a continuation of that economic recovery. And I think what we're seeing now is we're finally seeing the effects of Trump's policies. U.S. Steel laying people off because of his tariffs. The farming industry is in disarray because of his tariffs. They put, the thing is with economies, they don't turn on a dime. Course correction takes time. Trump did not get his first fiscal year didn't begin until October of 2016. He didn't get his tax cut for the wealthy through until the end of 2017, and it didn't take effect until the beginning of 2018. And because economies don't turn on a dime, they're like freight trains. They take time to, or like a big ship in the ocean. They just don't turn on the dime. And so now going forward. Is when we're seeing the effects of Trump's policies, and many economists paint a very grim picture going forward.
Yeah. What I would like to do is try to tie what progressive liberal was saying, what John Petersen was saying, which is and this is something that Jim Majors can attest to. It's a real thing in real life. Okay, so there's an effect you can do with a dog where you hold a treat up, right? And the dog jumps for the treat, but it's just out of its reach, right? And then the next time it jumps, you raise it just a little bit higher, and it keeps doing it. But at a certain point, the dog will stop because the dog realizes that no matter how hard it tries, the harder it tries and the harder it tries, that treat, that reward will always be held out of its grasp. And I think like what progressive liberal was saying, we're at the precipice of that, which is where people are starting to realize. Finally, it's sinking into them, and it's a bitter realization that reward will forever be held outside of their grasp if we stay in the system of capitalism that we have now, which is unfettered. We're trying to go even worse, and the thing is that no economic system, pure economic system, is gonna work. It's too easy, too susceptible to getting hijacked or its own flaws, so it has to be tempered with other economic ideas.
Sure. I think socialism has done a great deal for our nation since the New Deal passed.
But not true socialism. Like true socialism, the way that it's conceived would be kind of bad. You know what I mean?
Sure. I don't. I think a lot of people conflate socialism with communism. Communism requires a unitary executive, right? Socialism doesn't. Socialism can be paired with capitalism in a way that's functional and that's beneficial to the community.
Right, because labor co-ops and stuff like that. Worker co-ops.
Labor unions, just in general, they're very very good for for capitalism, because capitalism, in order to be successful, needs a lot of regulations on it. Marx, in his book, talked a lot about how his idea was an evolution of capitalism. Now, he wouldn't use the same terms that we do today. He wrote a very long time ago. But what he was talking about was that the Industrial Revolution had created an environment where everyone could have a job. Everyone could have something to do each day that would earn themselves the ability to have the things that they needed, to have a shelter, to have food, to have clothing. And there was no reason why we couldn't build an economy with that in mind. Now, I'm not promoting Marxism. It's just when we talk about socialism, we need to start with Marxism because that's the genesis of it, right? So socialism is more about what Nakasuchi just said is exactly what I was trying to get to. Socialism fails because of capitalist imperialism. This idea that the capitalist structure itself is what's sacred instead of the people in the society. And socialism says it's the people that are sacred, not the earnings. So if we were to give incentives to companies for doing things for their workers instead of just making money, we would have a very different economy. Even though it would still be capitalist, it would be capitalist with a social mindset. And that's the kind of thing that I fight for, is a social democracy, a socialist capitalism, because they're not antithetical to one another. They can be intertwined.
That's what I'm saying. They work well together to temper each other. That's what I'm saying. But you can't go full blast with one versus the other because it's too. What I'm saying is that we all know that there's bad actors that will take advantage of the system, right? They're going to take advantage of the system to destroy this system, because once you get to the top, it's hard to stop you. And that's the thing, is that we're trying to stop, like John Petersen said, a literal freight train that's been going for 600 years now, because the fencing of the commons happened a long, long time ago.
Sure.
And that was what took people away from being able to sustain themselves, not on what they grew, only on what they grew and raised their own livestock, but on the what was in the wilderness. Once that was fenced in, they were forced out of that lifestyle into the cities, where then they had to work enough to support themselves, but all the surplus went to their employer, basically, and that's the way that it is now. And it's weird to me. I've always found it weird that in America we accept in the work environment that it's a dictatorship.
The chat's talking a lot about the asylum and immigration, and I just did a video on immigration recently, so I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
But well, real quick, Puff, I completely agree with you and love you. I think that what we have to do is find that medium where there's regulations that are strong on one side that are supporting the workers, and we can still have capitalism, people can still make money, but I don't see that there's much of a need for billionaires or multi-billionaires in any society, because they just are holding all of the money when that money could be used to support other people in the society. So I'm in favor of regulations that would end that. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm not very good at making up the solutions, but I am very good at pointing out
sure.
the problems.
Hey, I'm not either. I'm not either.
Pointing out the problems.
Hey, recognizing a problem does not beholden you to solving the problem.
Well, see, that's a big problem that we have. I wouldn't even call it a problem necessarily, but it's certainly a hurdle to any kind of regulation that would, keep people from being able to acquire, becoming a billionaire or whatever, is we are a very hyper individualistic country, very hyper individualistic in our mindset. And most of us are not willing to give up. I want the right, even if I will never use it, I do not want to give up the right to do X, Y, and Z, because I feel it's unjust that I should be restricted in that way, even if there would be some kind of a benefit to the society overall. And I'm not sure that is an attitude that America is going to let die quickly or easily.
Rugged individualism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Teddy Roosevelt.
Silent Majority just asked me a question. I want to go ahead and answer it.
And then please go to what you were talking about a moment ago. You wanted to
sure, I will. Silent Majority, I don't want to use the wrong pronoun, said, I understand the humanitarian viewpoint towards millionaires, but how can you penalize them based off their income? They're millionaires. What penalty? They're millionaires, Silent Majority. That's the benefit, is that they get to be millionaires.
Can I explain it in my dumb?
No one can own more than $100 million in assets. They own $100 million in assets.
Can I explain it in my dumb way? Sure. Okay, so you have $100 million, right? If we take $80 million of that, you have $20 million. Is your life sucky? Is it really sucky? Like, I'm just saying, are you going to develop like the world's worst raging heroin habit? Are you going to be like the guy that invented McAfee and go to a foreign country and do super meth? Like, I mean, I don't know. What's going on in your life? It's 20 million. Because think about it like this. If you had $10 million and you put it in the worst mutual fund possible and you got 3% return, and you lived off that $300,000 of income every single year, that at this time is taxed at about 15%. Right. I don't understand how your life could not be baller city, but that's just my dumb ass.
If you took 90% of Mark Zuckerberg's money away, he would have $2 billion.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is,
I was gonna say though, like I think the big argument that most people put forward, and I have a kind of a counter to it as well, is that it would stifle innovation because you could only get so big and do so well. You could only have so much success before you would be limited by the I guess you would say profit constraints.
can I address something? Okay, so I was just somebody just said something. So yes, I understand that is their excuse. Oh, I put up this money so you can do all these things. Well, no, what it is okay, it's the system where they say, "Oh, look at how the post office is unprofitable, but FedEx is so profitable." It's like that for a reason, dummy. So
Right.
that FedEx is profitable. The government run stuff is almost never supposed to be profitable because it's done as well as efficiently as possible. Sorry, I'm getting so loud.
You're good.
But
You're not loud.
If we don't
but
move over to
yeah,
immigration,
so my
we're
thing
gonna-
is this: that's the structure. That's one of the secret structures of capitalism, unfettered capitalism, is that they present a system where they provide a problem, right? And then they get the government to fix the core problem, and then they provide a luxury solution to that problem and make money off of it.
right.
And that's
Yeah.
the deal, is that if those investments weren't there, the people are still going to invest. Do you think that people are not going to be like, I want to drink clean water. I want to breathe clean air. Like, what is that? Like, people are going to be like, you know what? Yes, I want rusty water in that creek right there that my kids play in. Nobody's going to say that. But a big capitalist company is going to be like, well, if it's free for me to put this hose in the river and then I have to pay money to actually dispose of the stuff, I'm going to stick the hose in the river.
There's this fantasy, this this myth that capitalism can allow anybody to climb the ladder to success and become rich and become wealthy or famous. Or I mean, the thing is that for capitalism to work, everybody can't be at the top. Okay,
Right.
so but as someone alluded to earlier, there's a lot of people out there, they don't want to give up that hope, that chance that they could be the one to make it to the top. But the system wouldn't work if everybody was at the top. You still need the masses, you still need the workers, you still need
I don't think
that's
that's necessarily an awful thing if even the people at the bottom have a standard of living that I consider acceptable.
Right.
You know what I mean? And right now we're not meeting that.
Exactly.
But okay, so Ansgar, you're very good at explaining stuff to people that in a way that doesn't threaten them, right? How do we explain to people that they are living in a system of feudalism?
Well, I think the big thing to point out is that we're doing. I think we just cut out.
We just shuffled.
Back yet?
We're gonna have to wait a second because I don't think we're live.
Yeah. And we got shuffled again.
Yeah, we did. We dipped out for like 20 seconds.
Okay. Are we back?
We're back. Pick up where you left off.
So I think the big thing to explain to people is that right now the American worker is in spite of what the media will tell you, is working harder than they've ever worked before. They're producing more than they've ever produced before. They are being more productive all over than in any other time in human history. But their wages and their lifestyle are not reflecting it. As the workers are picking up steam, as the workers are driving our society forward, they are not the ones directly benefiting from all of this extra work, from all of this extra productivity. And I think it's important that the way we frame it is not we want to tax millionaires necessarily, because everyone in America hates hearing tax. I don't know why, we just hate it, right? Yeah. But if we say that
there was a war and stuff, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, my biggest problem is that the highest tax bracket in the United States stops at $500,000. So anything over $500,000 annually is taxed the same as $500,000.
Well, and and the thing is back in the 50s and 60s, the marginal tax rates were between 70 and 90%, and no millionaire ever went without a yacht or a
Well,
meal.
you know the tax rate in like Sweden is only 2 or 3% more than what we pay.
Right. Well, they also tax capital gains differently, and they also don't allow some of the tax haven loopholes that we have.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is we have to point out all the companies that are making billions of dollars here in America and pay zero tax or actually get a tax refund.
Yeah,
I need to, if you don't mind, John, I need to present that really important information real quick. I think it's really important that people know about this.
Okay.
Oh, you want to do that now?
Yeah, I think it's important to do it.
Okay. You don't have to leave though, do you?
No, not at all.
Okay. Well, we had arranged. I was going to let Jim close the show with some interesting information that he's compiled here, but he wants to present it now, and
well, we can finish this up first if you're wanting to close with it. I didn't know you wanted to close with it. That's fine.
Well, that's
if you're okay with it, I'd rather you close with it.
That's fine.
I'm gonna give you the last five minutes or whatever you need at the end of the show.
Okay.
Hey, Mikey Fam, and I see you're in the live chat. It must be Sweet Heathen couldn't resolve for connectivity issues. If you'd like to join us, give me a shout in the live chat, and I can shoot you a link. Go ahead, Jim, or go ahead, whoever was.
What I was going to say is
that Blizzard recently, just as an example, had one of their best years, and not only did they pay not a single bit of tax, they actually ended up getting money from the government. The reason is that they technically this basement in another country owns all of their intellectual property, and they pay that company money to lease their own intellectual property. So when it's time to pay taxes, it actually is written off as a loss, even though they're making billions and billions of dollars. It's grotesque. And so what we need to do is we need to frame it as these billionaires, these job makers, they are fleecing our country, and it's the common worker. It's the person slaving away at the age of 50 in a fucking McDonald's that's paying the price.
Can I address something real quick? So somebody just said that the USPS has turned a profit every single year of its existence. So that'd be why we had to close rural post offices all across America, because they weren't making enough money to pay for them. Like, I mean, you can't have two things at the same time. You can't have the system making money and being profitable, and yet you're closing locations and retail centers, like basically places where you can go and do mail and stuff like that, right? And I know because my father lived in rural Arizona where they had one post office that went from every day to 3 days of the week. So because they weren't making any money. So if the money was in the system, it would be redistributed because it's a federal program, right?
That's how it is here. I don't get mail on the weekends, and usually, and most Fridays I don't get mail.
Yeah. So, and that's my thing. But what I wanted to ask is about the thing with the whole wealth stuff. So they say, like, Trump supporters will say wealth redistribution is bad, but it's okay for someone to be a billionaire in the same sentence, right? So how do you have people that are billionaires without wealth redistribution to the top? It makes no sense to me.
I think it's fine for people to be billionaires. Right. I don't think it's wrong to be a billionaire. I think it's wrong to be a billionaire and not be philanthropic.
Well, my thing is, I just don't think it's right to be a billionaire and not pay the same taxes or the same level of taxes that somebody that makes $30,000 a year pays, because I pay anywhere between 24 to 36% taxes depending on what I do during a year.
Well,
so
billionaires pay
because I have state taxes too.
Pay more than you, but not much more than you.
Well, no, but they also have a lot of loopholes. They have tax rebates and deductions and this, that, and
capital gains.
Right. But we should be talking about what's standardized, not what applies with exceptions, because you might apply for, you might qualify for something that I don't qualify for.
Well, the thing is, there's no billionaire in the world that's clocking hours. All right, that's what I'm saying. No, they don't clock in, they don't clock out. They just get paid, son.
Yeah,
that's they get.
I agree.
Then when
I don't disagree with you.
And then when they detonate companies in this country, they get a golden parachute, and then they get picked up by the next company that's like, "Hey, you made them money before you blew it up. Come over here."
And let's not forget.
I mean, when a company fails, the workers, what do they get? they get the door.
They suffer the brunt of it. Yeah.
What do the executives get? They usually
Bonuses.
leave with millions of dollars.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and then sometimes we bail out the damn companies. Oh no, you're too big to fail. It's gonna fuck with too much. No, we'll bail you out. We won't let you fail. And then you can take that bailout money and roll it into bigger bonuses. Great.
And speaking of this whole bank thing and Trump thing, so what's up with Deutsche Bank and the other bank and Capital One saying we don't have to answer questions that you're going to ask, that the Senate is going to, or the Congress is going to ask us about Trump. We don't have to answer those questions. You know, the judges were like, hey, what's going on? And people were like, they basically said, no, we're not going to answer any questions. And then they're like, we'll give you 48 hours to write a written response why you don't feel you have to answer questions. I'm like,
Misha brings up something great. American businesses are not set up to benefit the stockholders, are set up to benefit the stockholders, not the workers. And that's true too. They don't even have to really be beholden to their company, their customers anymore. These companies really are beholden to the stock owners and nothing more.
Yep.
Progressive, you got a question in chat.
Yeah, I answered it. The numbers that I got are from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren's pages. You should go read their policies.
But how can you prove that those numbers weren't made up by the fake
pro-liberal
media?
To calculate how many households in America are in, different income brackets. It's about 160,000 households above the 100 million mark.
So that link is not on Hillary Clinton's private server?
It's not currently. No.
So what do you think that we should do with tax exemptions? Do you think that we should eliminate exemptions over a certain amount, or do you think that nobody should have exemptions and we should just have standardized classes?
No. That's a lie from corporate America that they need tax exemptions.
Yeah. I feel if you make over $1 million a year or more,
do you think that these businesses should have access to exemptions like first year operations or whatever, or the AMT, the minimum, the affordable minimum tax credit, or things like that?
The only tax exemptions that I would like to see is if you want a tax exemption because you want to spend that money instead on worker salaries, I'm okay with that.
But the exemption is to compensate for some expense that you put in that benefits the economy as a whole. So but it doesn't, because here's the problem with that thinking. That thinking is false. That thinking is trickle-down economics. That, if my company saves money, I'll spend more money in the economy. They don't. They just give it. That's not what we're talking about.
Well, no, he's right in that comparison.
He's right. It's moving the goalposts.
Okay.
That's not what we're talking about.
It's the same mindset. Here's the thing. What you're talking about, Jim, leads to municipalities building football stadiums for billionaire football team owners.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, there's certainly some businesses should be able to benefit from government help, but
if that billionaire is building the stadium and he energizes it using solar power, all solar power, should he be able to get an exemption for that?
Maybe a carbon offset.
It would depend. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Too many of these tax exemptions are used inappropriately. So in my perfect utopia,
we're talking about this scenario where one is used appropriately, but it's a billionaire. Is it because it's a billionaire that it's bad, or is it the principle of the exemption?
For personal income, for personal earners, right? For actual people making money, taking home capital gains, whatever. I don't think over $1 million you need any tax exemptions, because name any person that makes over $1 million a year that went broke because of taxes. None of them. They went broke because of their spending habits. What they did with their money, where they invested their money, they might have done some crazy stuff with their money. Like they were like, well, you know what? I think cryogenically freezing a person's gonna work. Science says it doesn't, right?
But you have the issue with the principle of the exemption.
I can't clap someone on the back for being rich and be like, congratulations, you got there. Now you don't have to pay your way. Like,
No,
no.
that's not what I'm saying. Right? Like, what I'm saying is really simple, and I feel like you're trying to misconstrue and misrepresent it.
No, I'm saying that if your company makes $1 billion, you don't get any tax exemptions.
Hang on. What do you have the problem with? Like, is it because it's a billionaire, or is it the principle behind the exemption?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I'll answer your question directly. It's because it's a fucking billionaire. A billionaire should not need any help starting a business.
Then what incentive do you give a billionaire to use solar power?
Well, that's a different issue. If they're going to do something along those lines, then that's fine. But I'm talking about all the other stuff.
That's the
question, though. What I'm talking about, and you said that that's wrong because he got it for using solar power because he's a billionaire, not because it's for solar power.
Not for that specific example, but the other, tax exemptions.
Well, here's the, so you don't have a problem with him.
Here's my thing about taxes.
Here's my solar power saying no.
My thing about taxes is I can't go and take the wealth you already have with taxes. That's what I'm saying. We're not taking any wealth. If you want to earn more on top of the insane amount of wealth that you already have, then you're going to be taxed heavily. But nobody can go and with taxes take the wealth that you already have. You know what I'm saying?
Real quick,
I totally agree with you, but we have to incentivize.
So if you want to leave the market with your $1 billion, if you want to sit on your $1 billion and leave the market, that's fine. But you're not going to do that as a billionaire. You're going to stay in the market to make more money.
But we have to incentivize.
Guys, hold on. Let me jump in here real quick. We got a new person on the panel. We the Deviants just joined us, Mikey Famine. And Mikey, feel free to jump in here after Jim finishes his point.
My connection's kind of bad here on the yacht, so you guys are gonna have to speak up a little bit.
That brings up a good point because I believe that Mikey is here to defend Trump. You're a Trumper, right?
Okay, so but my whole point is that one way or another we have to incentivize economic-minded decisions being made by people who are responsible for the biggest industrial and commercial development. And so if we don't give them a reason to want to choose something else, like for example, if they're in a situation where they say, okay, it's $5,000 more to do it this way, and it's a little bit more economic minded, a little bit more environmentally savvy or whatever. It's good for the environment. It doesn't hurt it anyway. But we can save $5,000 by doing it this other way. If you don't incentivize them to use something else, or then I mean, you're just going to have to regulate everything so heavily unless you incentivize certain things. So to me, it doesn't matter if they're a billionaire or if they're getting a loan for it. If they're making something if they're making a decision that is good for the economy and good for the environment and good for the society, then I see no reason in incentivizing.
Can I offer my pushback to that?
Yeah, real quick though, Ansgar, were you just plus oneing Jim, or were you raising your hand to get in?
And I wanted to add something to what he said.
Okay, go ahead.
If you're a business owner, you want to start a business, let's say a retail store, right? You could either go to some wealthy neighborhood and let's say set up your shop and make all kinds of money, right? So what's going to incentivize you to go someplace where people actually need those jobs and build your business there? And one of the ways that happens is through things like tax incentives. So you have a very impoverished, very underprivileged area. You really want to bring something like a big box store, like let's say Costco, which would benefit the area with jobs, really good jobs in Costco, by the way.
And on top of that, just real quick, if you put in an incentive to increase diversification amongst your staff, then you also help people get jobs that normally wouldn't have jobs due to discrimination.
Can I offer my pushback now?
Yeah, but let Ansgar finish up this point though.
I was going to say, if you don't have some kind of incentive to draw people to make what would normally be a financially bad decision that we want them to make because it's a socially or environmentally conscious decision, then why are they going to do it? Just out of the kindness of their heart?
Well, no, because they're billionaires, they're movers and shakers, they're people that like the game, they're captains of industry, and they would continue to do that even without the incentives. Go ahead, Puffalupagus, and I want to let Mikey get in here after Puff. Go ahead, Puff.
Okay, here's my short thing: is that it's capitalism, right? They're out to make money, right? So if that technology is there, that's going to allow them to do things in a cheaper way. At the end of the day, like literally, it doesn't care. They don't care if they got to do 5-10 years to realize this profit. They have the amount of capital to sustain that time in between. They're going to do that because they know that in the long run they're going to make even more money, right? And the thing is, to address Ansgar's point, they always are going to put that store
money by fueling something one way than the other, because solar energy is much cheaper than electricity.
Solar energy is very cheap, right?
And you start making your money back in the long run.
Exactly. So that's why you don't have to give them any kind of tax incentive to put it in, because now businesses are doing it no matter what anyway, because they know that they're going to make money off of this decision, right? And then when you talk about where are you going to put the jobs, they may not be in the areas that are right there in the lower income areas, but they're going to be so adjacent, because the thing is this: when you're doing something that's capitalistic, you know for a fact one thing you need at this point in time is labor. And if you need that labor, you have to have it located close enough to a labor source, right? And that labor source has to be able to get to the job to do the job.
But hold on, you do need early adopters with something like solar. One of the reasons that businesses are figuring it out that's a good thing is because people were, right here in California, businesses were tax incentivized to put solar panels in, and it for a long time, probably like 10-15 years, it wasn't economically viable. And only because there was a market that was created through tax incentives is that becoming a thing now.
Yeah, these business owners were looking at 10, 15 years around before they would start making their money back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead and get in here, Mike.
So with the big box example, right? And Jim's talking about, oh, they don't have an incentive to do it. Well, with the whole incentive issue, talking point, someone's going to take the risk. It doesn't have to be everybody, but someone will do it. And if one person does it and it works, then they win. Like, not everybody didn't try to be Amazon. Amazon tried to be Amazon.
But a lot of people imitate Amazon. A lot of people, they tried to imitate in them in a way that they like their business model. They analyze it and assess the way they're doing because what they do works. When you see somebody that does something that works, you look at them, you follow them, you study them.
Right. But that first guy always gets a bigger piece of the pie. Yeah.
Well, not always, but they do have a better chance statistically
Tesla.
Yeah, like Tesla's out here winning.
Well,
no.
But you just made Tesla. Mikey's point for him, which was that people the person that figures out the successful method didn't do it because it was already successful. They did it because they were like, I'm going to try a different way to do it. And when it became successful, everybody else started doing it. That's what he just said. And
right,
he made his point for him.
That like things like solar or only becoming, they would have taken much longer for us to adopt. In fact, we might be just now starting to be able to sell solar panels if there weren't tax incentives, because at first, like 10, 15 years ago, it was like a 20-year investment to make money back on those panels. And by then they might be trashed and you might have to replace them.
Right.
You know, so there is some advantage to the incentive route.
Right, but it's like I apply the same thing that people apply to cars, right? People buy cars and everything like that. They're gonna buy cars, and the fact is, it doesn't matter if you race on Sunday, right? If you don't sell on Monday, if people don't buy the cars in mass, it doesn't matter. They can't make the race technology triple down.
We can't really make a comparison to cars because people aren't necessarily
it's automobile technology is what I'm saying. So the technology that comes from racing, all this technology we have in cars comes from racing.
Power technology is killing us, and one isn't. That's the difference.
No, but they've moved to different things. Now they're moving to a point where they can go even more power, even more response. But what I'm saying is,
I think we're in the
as far as solar.
rendered.
What I'm saying is, other countries other people moved beyond the solar power, the solar panel as a way of harnessing solar power. They moved to solar collection farms, right? And solar collection farms are on average far more efficient than a solar panel is right now.
We have them here in America too, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and we did that because other countries were successful. We didn't do that because we got funded a tax incentive. We did it because we were like, wow,
You think
that
other
really
countries
works.
did offer
Right,
taxes
but in
But it
cases
didn't have
where it
to.
doesn't
People had that
necessarily
idea
appeal to
without
their
the tax
Hold
incentive.
on,
What I'm
you
saying
guys are talking over one another. Hold on. Go ahead, Jim.
But in cases where it's not very appealing to them, like for example, if somebody has a fleet of vehicles that run on gasoline, on fossil fuels, and the government's trying to incentivize, and they're a billionaire, and they say, hey, if you go to electric cars, we'll give you 10% off. And he says, well, I was thinking about upgrading my fleet. I was thinking about getting some new vehicles. Instead of getting new vehicles, I might as well get electric. But then you think about it and you say, well, I've got to charge it. I've got to do all this. And you think about all the inconveniences. But at that point, the incentives are necessary in order to make them make an environmentally conscious decision.
Here's
Go
my
ahead.
question. You guys have been saying a lot that you have to incentivize billionaires to do this. You have to incentivize billionaires to do that.
You said yourself they have an incentive, and that's money.
Okay, fair enough. But if we have to incentivize billionaires in order to do things that help the rest of us, what benefit is there to having billionaires in my society at all?
I'm not saying don't also tax them, but I'm saying that we shouldn't penalize them or not incentivize them.
Jim, let me finish the question first. So doesn't it make more sense to have regulations in place that say, hey, if you have more than $100 billion, we're going to take 95% of it and we're going to put it towards giving the rest of society something? Because it's this mindset that only rich people deserve things. Only rich people deserve to have everything that they want and need because they're rich. Okay. That makes them better than everyone else.
So should we put a $5 billion
for them to use that money to improve lives for everyone else?
So you said 95% of 100 billion. Are you wanting to just?
No, I said 100 million, but.
Oh, they said billion.
No, million.
Oh, okay. So no, then I definitely don't agree with that. I don't believe that a person should be capped out at $5 million. That's insane.
No, he said 100 million.
No.
Yes, at 100 million. If you tax that at 95%, you were taking everything but $5 million.
No. He's saying over 100 million. Tax it at 95.
Okay, 100 million and $1 is still.
Over 100 million. You don't tax the first 100 million at 90%.
Oh, after. Right. Oh, okay. So what would you tax it up to? Like, would they be in the bracket, the 500,000 bracket?
Wait, say that again.
What bracket would they be in up to 100,000? Like, if they made $99,999, how much would you want to tax them?
Well, the problem is that the question is disingenuous because people at that level make more money off of capital gains than income. So you have to talk more about changing how the capital gains system works. So it's not really possible to answer that question because it's very rare to find somebody who gets paychecks every 2 weeks that equal up to $100 million or more in a year.
Here's the thing too, guys. We already did this back in the 50s and 60s. The marginal tax rate was between 70 and 90%, and none of those millionaires wanted for anything. And the economy was one of the best economies of our history.
It was literally the best.
And what you're going to have is a massive uprising of people hoarding their wealth, even worse than they already are. The fact of the matter is that these billionaires, like you said, and I completely agree with you, they want to do two things. They want to make their money and they want to keep their money. And they will hide it in offshore shell accounts. They will launder it. They will filter it through whatever means that they have to in order that they can keep whatever they need to. So whatever you put into place, they will always operate below that bar.
I have to counter that.
Illegally.
Go ahead, Puff.
I have to counter that with the actual example we have in reality is how we got out of the Depression was that when the labor unions and the socialist movement and the Socialist Party, when they all came together and they had a meeting with the president and they said, look, you have these problems in the country, they need to be solved or we're going to vote you out, right? He went to the captains of industry and he said, look, I have a proposal for you. What's going to happen is I'm going to take half of your money. I'm just going to take it. And then you're going to loan me the other half. Why? Because you have money right now. But if you want to have more money later, and you want to have more money, I suggest you do this. Because if not, your whole system is going to come crashing down around you, and all you're going to have left is what you have right now. So if you want to continue the system and keep it going, you're going to invest in that system to keep it going.
Yep.
The thing is, they already had that money. They did it willingly. So half those people walked away from the table, right? Half those people threw their money in. The people that are now captains of the industry, like the Koch brothers and everything, their parents are the ones that said, I'm putting my money.
Brother.
Thank goodness it's down to one. Well, there is a one that's been estranged. Don't forget about the one that was estranged because he's got a lifestyle, what they call a lifestyle choice. I call it the way he was born. But anyway, that's the thing is that those people are now the Koch brothers, the Trumps. Those are the people that their parents decided, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the money in so I can be rich later, because when they were provided a capitalistic choice, not a socialistic choice, a capitalistic choice, invest your money now to make money in the future, or don't and walk away with what you got right now. They did that. It's the same thing that happened with the companies that sided with China to get cheap labor and to get cheap production. They were like, we're going to offer up our intellectual property. Now they're talking about, you stole our intellectual property. No, they fulfilled the contract and you got cheap labor. You made a bunch of money for all these years and you never thought the contract was going to come to fruition. Now it has. You're reaping the rewards of what you did to make the money. The system's crashing around you and you can't take it. That's what's happening.
Right.
But
it's not just the 100 millionaires and billionaires paying taxes. It's the people who are making $25,000 a year that want to save to buy a new car. You know, they are still having to operate within that. I don't.
Right,
I mean,
and nobody's here is like, hey, let's tax them more, right? But the corporations are like, let's effectively tax them more because now I want to get 3 times the amount of labor for the same dollar per hour out of them. So you're literally taxing them at like a double rate now. So they're like, through the production or advancement of technology, they're making more. Like you said, they're more like Ansgar said, they're the more productive than they've ever been in their life, right? So, or in the history of the country, but they're not getting paid anything for that, and companies are reaping the rewards, and yet at the same time they're told, they're given this excuse that if they don't get reasons to invest that capital back, they're not going to do it. Well, why are you getting the capital in the first place?
That reason should come into regulation, into how they're manufacturing and what goes into it, because we need to update those laws. We don't just need to say, oh well, we're just going to not give you any exemptions. I do think we need to tax them more. I don't think we need to take away exemptions, but I think the most important thing that we need to do is to update our systems that conform to modernization.
Well, and the thing is you bring up a good point, because as automation technology increases, there's going to be less and less people at work, and this problem is just going to get worse and worse.
Yes,
so definitely needs to be addressed.
Right. But and we shouldn't incentivize that. In fact, I think we should penalize that. I think we should tax that. So if they are going into automation and they're losing workers, if they're making money off of going through automation and putting people out of jobs, then they should pay a tax.
Well, they're going to have to implement something like that, because if down the line, if automation takes away so many jobs that we have to go to a universal basic income, that money has to come from somewhere. So.
Gang.
I just have a question about what progressive liberal was asking, suggesting. Are you suggesting that there is, because this is what it sounded like. I think I might have misunderstood what you were saying. Are you saying that there is a cap on how much someone is allowed to own, and then after that they can't earn any more?
I would like to see that, yeah.
So what? I'm just curious. So somebody that has a lot left to innovate and give our society, let's just say, not that every billionaire is that person, but let's just say that. What incentive do they have to continue innovating and pushing forward once they've reached that goal? Why not just
Yeah, I'm a little confused by this too, because here, and real quick before you go, Ethan, I can't agree with with that. I think it's good to go back to what it was in the 50s and 60s, that over a certain threshold, then maybe you tax their income at 90%. But to say that they can't earn any more after that, I think Ansgar is making a good point. That would, I think, lead to problems.
Well, I will offer and answer that question when there's no more starving children, and when no one has problems affording insulin.
Thank you.
And when everyone has free
those problems, and that's a very valid point. However, you can't legislate altruism.
Well, you can't.
No, but
actually you can.
Here's what I got to say to that, right? Is that Elon Musk didn't invent any of the things that made a Tesla and the greatest car that it is, or the fastest car on the planet, right? He didn't invent any of those things. He didn't innovate a single one of those things. He just provided the stimulus with money, right? His money, his wealth provided the stimulus. Well, here's the thing, right? Wait a second. In the 50s and the 60s, we were taking that money from them in the form of taxation and everything like that, and the populace was putting it into innovation. That money was still going to get spent. People want their lives to be better, and if they understand, like they did in the 50s and 60s, that you have to put in this money, right? Everybody's going to have to put in the money, not just the billionaire. Everybody has to put this money in, right? So when the money goes in, the people have not such a problem with that money being reinvested and making their lives better. No one's going to have that problem. I can't see that happening, because we have recent examples in history that every time that's given a chance, people are like, yes, let's reinvest that money. So the only people that don't do that are billionaires that already have a exceptionally great life. Their life is going to get better. They can fund any innovation they want. They're not innovating anything, right? The very few people that have gotten wealthy off of that were smart enough to be capitalists before they were inventors. And that's the thing, is that saved them. It's not that they're an inventor, because innovation is not what gets you that. And I hate that companies get the credit for innovation, because all you did was provide liquid. That's all you did. And societies, even our society, has proven that we are more than willing to do that with our own tax money. We didn't get to the moon because Dow Chemical was like, let's put in $445 million because they gave us a tax incentive. No, we did that because the United States government had all this money from taxing heavily corporations and the wealthy, and they said, okay, we're going to make this achievement. And yes, that was. But the people are still going to work. That's the thing, though, is people are still going to do this production. They're still going to be in excess beyond what people need to survive. And the thing is that worker co-ops have no problem doing that. And they have no problem having a completely democratic decision as to what happens with the surplus.
You think a worker co-op could have got us to the moon?
It did, in a way, if you think about it.
No, it didn't.
Socialist policies got us to the moon, because what we did is we funded with
hippies on a farm building a freaking rocket ship to the moon. That is
it was literally that, though. It was a bunch of people that were counterculture, and they pushed against what they were doing. The people that got us to the moon were not people that were conventional. The people that did the mathematics, one of them was a colored lady, right? It was a team of colored ladies, sorry, not, you know.
With what I'm saying, though,
what I'm saying is that
worker co-op. It wasn't even remotely a worker co-op. It wasn't structured like a worker co-op.
It was, because everybody was getting paid off of their efforts, not off of a future investment, or like you're going to get rich one day. They got paid off of, here's your passion for the project, right? This is where you're doing. They put in much more passion, and they didn't do it because they were like, hey, I'm getting a fatty paycheck. They did it because they said, I can do something that's never been done before, right?
But that's still not a worker co-op. Because it has like few elements of like people, it's not a for-profit business, doesn't make it a worker co-op. A worker co-op is a very specific thing. They needed a huge injection of government resources to make this happen, and not only that, they had to great minds from across the country, which a government, which a co-op is not going to do.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, Misha. I understand.
Hey,
I understand. That's what I'm saying. Is that it was the government investment of money. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't nut jobs doing it. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that the people that were doing it were quite.
Hey, dude, when John is trying to stop the conversation, this is like his channel. You need to respect that, man.
Sorry, he was going to where I was going anyway. All right.
Well, yeah,
thank you, Jim.
But still, I mean, like this is just.
I would just say
steamrolling isn't right.
He's excitable. He's not being it to be a dickhead.
Yeah,
I know he's not. I know he's not. That's why I apologize afterwards, because I know that that was harsh, but
he saw it just the same time I did, so he was already addressing it. Go ahead, Puff.
That's what I'm saying is that government investment, and the thing is that without a profit incentive, which there was no profit incentive to that goal, right? There wasn't going to be private market investment, right? And the only profit incentive.
You think that the people would have worked and gone to the moon if they weren't getting a wage?
That wage wouldn't have been provided to. What I'm saying is they would have been provided a much lower wage if that was for a capitalist endeavor. If that was not an endeavor that was wholeheartedly funded through a government, a socialist enterprise.
That it should be a capitalist.
No, what I'm saying is that
capitalist venture.
What I'm saying though is that tax incentives could have never achieved that.
Wait, there are some things.
We would have never went to the moon. It wouldn't happen.
No, there are some things that do very well, but not for profit. The space venture in particular needed to be a not-for-profit venture because there were a lot of things for society to gain, but there weren't a lot of profits to be had right away. There was no way to extract profits from space venture right away. Right,
and that's what I'm saying is it seems to be that in technology, medicine, in the labor
industry,
all these things are areas where the government
is a good thing.
No,
in some places, having a capital incentive is good.
No, and that's what I'm saying is I disagree with that. I disagree. What makes that profitable is that I think that what makes that profitable is the government's willing to waste their.
I think what we're going to do here is just agree to disagree and move on. I think there was some other people who wanted to make a point. I know Mikey has been trying to get in for a while.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike. No, you guys are all right.
All right.
Mikey, did you have something you wanted to get in on?
Me? Again, I'm in the private jet. It's very hard to understand what you peons are talking about. I mean, something about you're hungry. And you want like food, you call it? I don't know. It's way up here. I mean, yes, I needed a tax incentive to invest in your little solar farm because I mean, I wasn't gonna do it anyway. But hell, the government's gonna give me money to do it. Yeah, I'm all about solar. Let's do the solar thing.
Well, I mean, the thing is though, is
Gaston,
they have to have certain incentives I can agree with. But the thing is if somebody is a capitalist, if they are an entrepreneur and they sniff out a profit in some venture, they are going to take advantage of that venture. And it doesn't matter what incentives there are. And when you put all of these different incentives in, then of course they're going to take advantage of those too. I think that if some of the incentives weren't there, these entrepreneurs are still going to be entrepreneurial. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Some idiot will take the risk. And then that idiot will be proven by history to be a genius. Because it made no sense to do X, Y, Z, and he did it anyway, and he poured a whole bunch of money into it, and it worked. And those things can either be good for the country or bad for the country. But we see what they do with their tax incentives. I don't know that it's necessary to keep doing it. And if
there we go. Now we're back.
Yeah, the people aren't giving them a choice anymore because they've earned that money off of our backs, which is fine. And you get your jets, that's fine. You get your yachts, that is fine. but you're going to reinvest in the country that you made your money in. Period.
Bad news, fellas. I think we were out for about 15 seconds there.
Yeah, it was. We dropped for a second. But
it's not as long as you think. I was watching before I got in.
Oh, okay.
Last time it's maybe
well,
4 seconds.
and let me just say, I'm learning tonight that I should always listen to Jim Majors. A few of my streams on StreamYard worked really good with my laptop because I'm only like 8 feet away from my Wi-Fi. But he did try and tell me,
hardwire,
get an Ethernet cord.
Hardwire, baby.
And so as soon as this broadcast is over, I will be ordering the Ethernet cord with the USB adapter at the end of it, so that I can be hardwired next time.
Well, listen, I gotta jump off here.
Same.
Hey, it's good you say that because I was thinking about wrap. I like to keep it to 2 hours or a little less. The longer ones I don't like doing so much. But so real quick before I turn the closing over to Jim, progressive liberal, anything you want to shill?
Yeah, lots of stuff. So Mikey and I do. Wait, Mikey's over there now. Mikey and I do the after show 3 nights a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night on my channel at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This week we talked about biohacking and transhumanism. On Thursday night, we talked about when it's correct to criticize prominent members of the skeptic community, and we talked a lot about Lawrence Krauss. You should watch that one. And then last night, we had a special guest, Dutch Jason, who was recently banned off of Twitter, and we talked about the Twitter bans and just heard Dutch's view on politics. And then pretty much every single night of the week, Mikey and I also stream together over on Mixer, and we play video games and we talk about politics. And you should come watch us, mixer.com/progressive liberal or mixer.com/Mikey Famine. And you should come talk politics with us because we agree on lots of stuff, but not on, the stuff that doesn't matter, like Andrew Yang.
Oh, we argue on there. We'll be nice on the show. And then I'm like, I can't wait to get this bitch in the parliament. I got some shit to say about this.
So you guys are like playing shooter games and killing one another and bitching at one another about.
We play on the same team.
My wife is also there too. So my wife streams with me and she tells us to shut up, and it's great.
Well, hey, Mikey, anything you want to add to that about your channel or?
Not so much on my channel. I'm adding a couple playlists onto my channel. I am the solo musician of The Deviants, which is the channel's name. My album dropped. So go to pretty much every platform you can find and look for The Deviants, and you can see it. It's called Voicemail. And I made it all on my cell phone. Like, I have recording equipment, but I wanted to make everything on my cell phone to prove a point. So check that out. And Patreon, Mikey Famine. We the Deviants, Twitter, the Deviants, YouTube, Mikey Famine, Facebook. That's all I got, humans.
Mixer, Mikey Famine.
Mixer, Mikey Famine.
Yes.
All right. Well, hey, Ethan, thank you so much for being here. Mikey, I'm glad you were able to join us for a little bit. I hope we're not running you out of here because it turned into a shit show or something like that.
No. We're streaming on Mixer tonight, so we got to go on our Mixer stream.
All right. We'll go roll up some big fatties and get to it.
Thank you for having us on, John.
Oh, yeah. We'll do it again real soon.
And Jim and Ansgar and Puff, I love you guys.
I love y'all.
Likewise, man. Love you too, bro.
Disagree with you, but I love you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bye, guys. Puffalupagus, any final thoughts on the topic, and what do you want to show?
I guess my final thoughts are, I guess I'm like a super leftist. I guess it's bad. So I apologize, guys. It's probably I need my views tempered by some more right leaning views as well. Just like I said,
you have nothing
economics.
To apologize. You got nothing to apologize.
But I try to be rational in my stuff. But sometimes I get a little too
we all
passionate.
get there, man. We all do the same shit.
Nonetheless, the one thing I do want to show is I want to show the Geek Room because I'm just gonna go out and say this is that earlier this month I was fighting the Black Dog, and they just happened to put up a video in the right amount of time that it kind of bailed me out. So just they're good guys, man, and shout out to them. Shout out to Bull. Thank you guys because fighting the Black Dog is hard.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's not much of a better shout out. The Geek Room is awesome. I like all those folks over there. And now, Ansgar, Nick was counting on you to shill some stuff. And if you have any final thoughts, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I think that I was going to say, you know, Puff, all good, man. A healthy democracy requires viewpoints from, you know, all different angles. It really, really does. So I love having discussions with people who don't necessarily agree with me way more than I do people who always agree with me. And passion is good. Passion is good. But for shilling, I don't normally do this very well, but Nick Suter and I, we started a show called In Time. You can search for it on YouTube. You'll catch one of our shows further down, maybe the one we did on superheroes, but we discuss a variety of topics. The last one we did was on how superheroes and the superhero genre has informed and been informed by our culture, and how many young children even have learned, without even knowing it, things like normative ethics and moral philosophy from comic books, and you know, the interplay between comic books and culture. We've got another one coming up, I think, on circumcision on Tuesday. I host our after party on my channel. You can just look up my name on YouTube. You'll find it. And I do a little show on there called Gothic Puppet Theater. It's kind of fun. And you can look me up on Twitter, where I have my artwork. My wife and I are co-writing a comic book, and pretty soon it will be being published. So look for me on Twitter at Ansgar T. Odison.
All right, awesome. And all the guest information, I will get that in a pinned comment as soon as this posts this video. I'm going to do my showing real quick, and then I'm going to throw it to Jim to close the show out. He has something interesting he wants to share with us all. Catch me Wednesday nights on Nakasuchi's channel. And this week, we're going to have Dr. Misha Griffith and Jerry Griffith on, along with the folks from Digital Hammurabi. And that's as far as Digital Hammurabi goes, that's an almost confirmation. Megan did say she had to get with Josh, and she's going to be finishing up traveling on Tuesday. So most likely Digital Hammurabi will be there, Josh and Megan, but for sure the Griffiths will be there, and I will have a polytheist there as well, because we are going to talk about Norse mythology. Tomorrow, the Amateur Conversationalist show, taking this week off for some family stuff. And then, as always, on Saturday nights, you can find me here. And now I want to throw it over to Jim to give his final thoughts and do whatever showing he's got to do. And then he has something he wants to share with everybody to close this discussion out.
Okay. Well, I was going to wait to do this just because so many people had fallen out of the chat. But since you did stay in the chat, all 44 of you, this is for you. I've been doing a lot of research lately. A lot of research. And I found something that really concerned me, and I felt the need to share it with the community and share it with everybody else, with the whole world, really. Let's see, let me figure out how to do this. So here we go.
I think he's trying to figure out how to screen share something with us.
No, I know how to do it. Boom, see? Told you. Okay, can you guys see this?
I can see you.
What?
No, I see something in his box. It says Donald Trump Jr. Jim Major screen. I don't think it's on the main screen though. Let me check our feed and see what we got going on here. You may hear something for a minute.
Nope, they can't see it.
You may hear something for a minute. Yeah, no, it's just still the four boxes up there. I don't understand why. Wait a minute, maybe I have to. No, all it gives me the option to do is to add you to the stream, and you're already added to the stream.
Well, try to add me again.
All right. Move from stream. And then now Wait a minute. Now we're getting the 1,000 mirrors. Yeah, no, it's just still the 4 boxes.
Yeah, let me. Okay, like nobody else can see it though, right?
No, right now on the broadcast screen that I'm looking at, there is most of it is covered with that Donald Trump Jr.
Oh, okay, good. Okay,
and then, but then there's a bunch of boxes. There's a bunch of boxes at the bottom though too. Okay, there you go. Now you can see the boxes went away for a second. Okay, there you go.
Can anybody else see it?
Yeah, it's in the broadcast right now. But now you went back to the 1,000 mirrors.
Okay, sorry.
There we go.
Sorry, guys. Okay, so been doing a lot of research, and I've come to the conclusion that Donald Trump is the Antichrist, and I can prove it. You're laughing. Don't laugh. Serious moment. Okay, pay attention. The Antichrist was supposed to be the opposite of Jesus, right? So the Antichrist was also supposed to start his ministry at 30 years old. In 1946, Donald Trump was born, and in 1976, let me pull up my notes. In 1976, he was prophesied of by a man named Pat Cordell, who was one of the campaigners for Jimmy Carter. The Antichrist is said to be the man of lawlessness, and here we have the president sexually assaulting an ex-president. It says the coming of the lawlessness or of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power of false signs and wonders and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. He always talks about fake news and how there were billions and billions of people and how he's the best of everything and all these other things. And so he's clearly the Antichrist. Trump means a little horn. And in Daniel 7:8, it prophesies Donald Trump. It says, while I was thinking about the horns, there before me was one horn, or was another horn, a little one, which came up among them. And 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully. So this is prophesying the 4th beast. Donald Trump is the 4th child. He has 3 older siblings, being Marianne, Fred Jr., and Elizabeth. He made a covenant with Israel, and in recognizing Israel's capital as Jerusalem, Trump is laying the groundwork for rebuilding the temple in which the Antichrist will crown himself God. That's 2 Thessalonians. So it's known that the devil fuels the Antichrist. We see that in Revelation. We see that the devil is always represented by a dragon. And here we have Kanye West saying, I don't agree with, he says, we are both dragon energy. And Donald Trump says, thank you, Kanye. Very cool. Confirming that he is fueled by the dragon. This is, this is Jared Kushner's property. This is at 666 5th Street. I think that tells you everything you need to know. And the Antichrist will be born of the tribe of Dan, according to Genesis. Dan means judge. Donald Trump's mother was a judge. There's no denying it. In Matthew 24:21, Jesus tells us that there will be great suffering, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now. And here we see in Donald Trump's own words, never, ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer the consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. I mean, just about fucking verbatim. So with that being said, I conclude my presentation, and I just want to tell everybody to hug your loved ones and do not fear, but the Antichrist, Donald Trump, is here.
Slow clap for that. That was beautiful. I think I'm going to have to cut that out and make it its own little vignette of a video. Sorry for the technical issues that you suffered there to get it going, but yeah, that was brilliant. So, hey, thanks again, fellas, for being here. It was a fun discussion. I'm sure we could have gone on for a lot longer because we had some strong opinions here, and Trump is a subject we're going to be talking about for the next couple of years, or at least until the election.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and just so
join us
everybody
again
knows,
next week.
for clarification, if you crop it, I want you to put this at the end of it. This is a parody. This is parodical. I do not believe this. I don't mess with me.
Okay. So, and here you go. We'll end with a little praise for Jim from Misha Griffith. And thank you, folks, for being here. Please join us again next Saturday when who knows who will be here and who knows what we'll be talking about, but we'll be talking about something, folks.